Hello, everybody. This is the earnings week prediction. Today, we're going to be predicting Microsoft, Tesla, Snapchat, CocaCola, Amazon, and Twitter earnings, which are all this week. This is StockerFinance. I'm your host, David Shorter. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at StockerFinance for more information. So, here's a quick earnings summary. This is going to be a brief summary of each of these. A little bit of predictions, but mainly just kind of a summary and overview of what I think they're going to talk about at the different earnings calls, etc., and how these companies are going to perform. They're all this week. I know I'm just choosing these companies. There are tons of different earnings this week, but these ones are the ones that I'm currently following. So these are the ones that I'm going to talk about in this video. So for the earnings summary, just a brief little overview here. The 21st, we have Coca-Cola and Snapchat. I think Coca-Cola is going to struggle a little bit. Snapchat, I do think will do pretty strongly. I'm seeing Microsoft on the 22nd and Tesla on the 22nd as well. It's going to be a huge day. Microsoft, I'm predicting them just do phenomenally well as usual. Just no big surprises there. Tesla is definitely... I expect I'm very bullish on Tesla. I've been long on Tesla for a long time and expecting very good results. Although I will talk about how if there is bad results, it could lead to a significant drop, at least a short-term drop in its stock price because of some things that have been happening recently. But I also hope that if it gets added, it's definitely going to confirm S&P 500 inclusion. So it's a really big earnings date for Tesla. Everyone definitely should be paying attention to that. That's going to be huge. Next up on the 23rd, we have Amazon and Twitter. Amazon shouldn't be too many big surprises there. It's probably just touch on cloud growth a little bit, see if the demand can keep going for, consumer spending. I'll talk about a little bit of that. And then Twitter, I think they're really just going to touch on the hack, but I think that's really Twitter's kind of 50-50. I'm not really sure where it's going to go. I am not a Twitter shareholder either, so I haven't done a big analyst report for Twitter like I usually do for that I've done on Snapchat, Microsoft, Tesla, and Amazon as well. So, anyways, the first one we're going to talk about, though, is Coca-Cola. I'm just going to do an order from the first earnings date to the last one. So, we're starting with KO, is its ticker symbol, Coca-Cola. And I'm just going to quickly go over some things here. Now, I personally don't think Coca-Cola is going to be doing too well for a few reasons. So, the soft drink segment is suffering substantially. And you may be saying, wait. Coca-Cola doesn't just sell soft drinks. They sell tons of stuff now. They're a big conglomerate. They own basically, a third of the grocery store. Yes, that's true, but they still make tons of their profit from soda in general, from a bunch of different brands of soda. And the main way they do that isn't from people walking into a grocery store and buying a Coca-Cola or just a random soda pop, which that people aren't doing as much anymore, but it's mainly from theme parks and from restaurants where they have, they're supplying big chains with soda and doing these big orders. But now there's no demand for that. There's not as many people going to restaurants. Many are just closed. Theme parks have been closed down for a long time where they supply a lot of that. So that whole segment of Coca-Cola, which is a really large part of its business, is going to suffer immensely. On top of this, I'm really trying to see how they're going to compete with Pepsi's Snacks.com. I think Pepsi is in a much better position than Coca-Cola and has really taken a more innovative and forward approach to this whole thing, where it's realizing, people are stuck at home. Okay, what are they going to do when they're going to go home? They can't go to the movie theater. They can't, go out as much. They're going to have time at home with their family. They're going to be watching movies. They're going to buy lots of snacks. So Tesla goes ahead, Pepsi goes ahead, acquires Snacks.com. And what it does then is builds this whole thing of just people can order snacks on it. It's a really simple and clean website. I don't think there's a ton of people using it right now. There's probably a fair amount, but not a ton. I personally haven't used it. I don't know a lot of people that use it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they start to push that more and more and grow it into a further and bigger part of Pepsi's business. But back to Coca-Cola, I'm really interested to see how they're going to compete with that when their main soft drink section is really sort of struggling here. So if we look at Pepsi's operating income and revenue, it's really been on a decline for the past few years. Actually, since about 2012, it's just been on a general decline. Same with their net income, which has been pretty even, but still not phenomenally great. It's not growing by any means. We've seen a little bit of growth in recent quarters, but that's really about it. It's pretty much been between 1 and 2.5 billion US dollars in net income, and that's about it for quite a while now. On top of that, we're seeing operating expenses, which are decreasing, and I think that's one reason why net income has stayed the same, because their margins have somewhat stayed the same as well, because of their decreasing expenses. But their growth, they're basically decreasing in revenue for a while, and their operating expenses year over year were decreasing with it, but they kind of go hand in hand. So as they gain more revenue, their operating expenses went up as well, and now we're starting to see growth decrease again as well. So that's why their net income is staying pretty flat, but their revenue overall is just really decreasing, and they really need to innovate and pick some stuff up to get back on track. But it's a huge company, and they could definitely make some substantial changes if they wanted to. Next up here is Snapchat. So Snapchat is one that I've been following for a long time. I've been following Snapchat since the beginning. I was an early adapter of Snapchat, been an investor since 2016, 2017. Bought and sold, traded it a little bit. So just full disclosure, I am very bullish on Snapchat. However, there's some interesting things that I want to look at during this earnings call. So the main thing I think they're going to talk about is how usage is up substantially. I think that's going to be no surprise. Usage is going to be up substantially across the board on all social media platforms. Advertising is going to be interesting. Now, advertising for Facebook and a lot of these other social media companies can be a bit of a struggle right now. Because for Facebook especially, a ton of their advertisers are local small businesses that do smaller ads, but there's tons of different businesses advertising on Facebook. Snapchat focuses on really large businesses. So it's getting McDonald's to advertise, Gatorade. There's constantly different film studios that advertise on Snapchat. There's a lot of bigger, companies that have a lot of money are investing in Snapchat. And those companies are the ones that aren't as affected by this whole pandemic. So I think Snapchat's advertising actually won't be hit as hard as some of the other social media platforms. But usage is up so much right now across social media platforms that I don't think it even really matters that much if advertising is hurt a little bit. I want to see Snapchat to still innovate, so I'm hoping to hear something about that in their earnings report. Something about augmented reality would be kind of cool. The main thing for their earnings, though, is guidance. What is the future looking like? Because usage is up a ton right now because number one, kids aren't in school and people are just staying home. They're not working. They're not being productive. They're really just kind of staying home. And once they, hopefully things will go back to normal. And once it does, well, what is the usage going to be like? Is it sustainable or is usage going to decrease? And that's something that we got to figure out here. Now, daily active users, this is the number thing that I expect to increase pretty dramatically. We start increase by a decent amount in Q1 2020. I expect it probably to increase by possibly even more in terms of percentage gain from the previous quarter in Q2 2020. So this will be really interesting. One thing, though, is I noticed that North America, Europe, and the rest of the world, daily active users for Snapchat are pretty evenly divided into thirds. It's 3 sections: North America, Europe, and rest of world. But the revenue by geography, when you look at North America, Europe, and the rest of the world, is completely skewed to almost all of it's just North America generating the revenue. Well, when you look at Twitter's revenue by geography, it's really evenly split, which means there is a way to make, there means there is money to be made in Europe. So why is Snapchat not taking advantage of that and not making revenue and earning a profit in Europe like it is in North America? So I shouldn't have said earning a profit because they're not exactly fully profitable yet, but just earning more revenue and getting that extra income from that area. I don't really know what's going on there, if they're still expanding or what's going on, but I feel like Snapchat's pretty popular throughout Europe. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not from Europe, but that's kind of what I feel like. So it's going to be interesting. I hope they touch on that a little bit. Another operating income and revenue has been increasing. Net income still negative, but hopefully it seems like they're sort of on the direction to profitability, which is a good sign. Their margins are, what you'd expect from an unprofitable company, but they are increasing, which is better. So they are on the road to profitability, but I would like to see it speed up a little bit because it seems like it's lagging behind. And I think part of the way they can speed that up is by taking advantage of Europe because they clearly have the daily active users, but they're not getting the same amount of revenue that they are in North America, which is just confusing to me. Operating expenses are somewhat high. I think they're spending a little too much on R&D, in my opinion. I know they're trying to come up with new ways to advertise, but in my opinion, I think, they could slow down a little bit on that. I know they had the Snapchat glasses, which was basically just a marketing campaign. Spending $200 million on R&D when your app is, pretty solid already. They can make a little slight adjustments, but I think spending $200 million plus on R&D every quarter is a bit much, personally. At least until they become profitable. So then we have growth. They're still growing. We kind of saw a decrease in growth, but overall they're still growing. And the revenue is pretty steady growth there. Operating expenses, we actually had a decrease in growth, which was nice. So in terms of their operating expenses were lowered in Q1 2020, apparently. Anyways, cash flow is nearing positivity, which is perfect. So Snapchat's heading in a good direction. I expect good things from their earnings report. But again, guidance is going to be one of the main points. Now it's going to Microsoft. So Microsoft, I'm just going to briefly go over it here. It's a powerhouse of a company, one of my favorite companies of all time. It's going to do phenomenally well. More people using computers is great for business. That's good for Microsoft. Cloud computing, I want to see that growing, and I want to see I think that's going to be one of the main points of earnings. I think they'll have solid growth like usual. I expect Microsoft sales to be up, or Microsoft Office sales to be up pretty substantially, as well as want to see how Microsoft Teams is comparing to a lot of the other business platforms. I think Microsoft Teams will experience some good growth and add extra revenue and profitability to Microsoft. Microsoft's a great company. It's a powerhouse, and it's going to continue to climb, and its stock price is going to follow that. One of the best growth companies out there, in my opinion. Now Tesla. So Tesla, definitely a very big earnings report for them. I think the main focus for Tesla is going to be China deliveries and sales, and then just whether they're profitable or not profitable. And that's pretty much the biggest question. There's large upside and large downside to their earnings. If they are profitable, well, it proves that Tesla is recession-proof, like Elon has claimed in the past. If they're not profitable, well, that so many people are shorting Tesla right now that it's going to cause a pretty big collapse in the stock price, in my opinion. I think we're going to see a pretty big decline there. On top of that, I think we're just going to see, we've had so many new investors buying Tesla shares because it's such a desired stock right now that I think there's going to be a lot of panic if they're not profitable. And if something happens, if the stock starts decreasing by, let's say it goes down 10% the next day, I think people could easily panic sell and create a much larger drop than it needs to be. It'll be short term and it'll eventually recover, but we could see that. However, I do not think that. I think Tesla will be profitable. Elon literally, he sold shorts. I actually bought a pair. I thought they were hilarious. It's a bold move to release shorts, basically making fun of shorting people who short Tesla, and then not be profitable. That would be pretty embarrassing. So I definitely think Tesla's going to be profitable for a variety of reasons. I think China is going to be one of the biggest points. I think it's going to blow people out of the water there. Delivery announcement was already really strong. I want to see a Tesla Semi update as well, so we might expect that as well as just Gigafactory updates. Now let's go on to Amazon. So Amazon, this is going to be interesting. This is on the 23rd again. So Amazon, or not again, just this is on the 23rd, just so you know. So Amazon's going to be interesting. I think there's not going to be too much crazy stuff going on with Amazon. I expect just kind of the normal growth. It's going to be a very good quarter for them. They're going to make a lot of money. I think the stock price will reflect that as well. I do want to see guidance because, again, is the current revenue and profit sustainable? Similar to social media usage, where tons of people are using it right now because we're all stuck at home. Just like Amazon, tons of people are using it because we're all stuck at home. What about when we go back to work? And the main thing for Amazon that's different than these social media platforms is that people's stimulus is running out. Their unemployment is starting to stop. So people are starting to hoard money. Like I did in my JP Morgan analysis, people were putting more and more money away in their bank accounts and not spending as much right now. Now, if people aren't spending money, that means they're not going to be buying products on Amazon, which will affect Amazon's, revenue and their bottom line. So I want to see if they believe that this is a sustainable route for them, or if they're kind of peaking right now and they expect it to actually decline a little bit, maybe back to where they previously were in the coming quarters. But I want to see what they're going to say about that. So that's going to be interesting. Overall, though, Amazon expect earnings to be very good. Expect cloud growth to be solid. That's another point I want to see. I think they're going to talk about a lot. And just guidance. I want to hear guidance from a lot of these companies to see how they're feeling about the current situation. Next up is Twitter. This is a super interesting one. Actually, this might be, besides Tesla, I think Twitter might be the second most anticipated earnings report for me, simply because of what recently happened with the whole Twitter hack. It was pretty crazy. The most questions, I think, in this entire earnings report are going to revolve around that hack and what the deal was. They need to know, especially with the timing of how important everything right now is, with the presidential election in the United States coming up, just with everything going on with the pandemic. Twitter's faced a lot of criticism, and I want to see what happens. Oops, sorry about that little pop-up there. So how will they increase security? Are they going to be profitable or not? That'll be a huge one. Their subscription program they kind of randomly released, advertising and future guidance as well. Twitter's got a lot going on, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Let's look at some numbers for Twitter, actually. So their monetizable daily active usage, well, it's increased pretty substantially to about 160 million. It's growing well. International is doing solid. US, it's growing overall. That's what we like to see. It actually seems like it's growing faster and faster, which is just great. Twitter has been, you can just tell Twitter's getting a more popular platform. I think especially what's happening is a lot of the younger generation. So we're seeing a lot of the high schoolers and college students who maybe didn't use Twitter as much start to adopt Twitter and use it a lot more. I've personally seen this with all my friend group. I'm a younger guy and I'm in college, and Now I'm seeing all my friends start to adopt Twitter. I'm even seeing my younger brother and some of his friends start to get Twitter and use it for fun. So I think we're seeing more and more people, and I think the amount of people using Twitter is going to pick up. But obviously, usage with everyone being inside, Twitter's a perfect place to just scroll through mindlessly and look at different Twitter arguments going on or whatever. But usage is going to be up substantially across all social media, but especially Twitter. Revenue by geography, growing pretty steady there. Revenue segments growing steady. Everything's looking pretty good for Twitter. Just the hack is going to be a really important thing, and then whether they're profitable or not. They were profitable for a pretty fair amount of time, and then last quarter they actually weren't. So this quarter it's going to be interesting to see how they fare, as well as with their whole advertising thing of political advertising, not advertising politics on their or letting political campaigns advertise on their site. That was an interesting choice by Twitter. So I think there's going to be a lot of questions for Twitter, and I expect a lot of controversy in this upcoming earnings call. Overall, though, I think it'll be a decent earnings call, depending how their guidance is. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of these operating expenses and margins. Not too much else to touch on with Twitter here. Their cash and short-term investments, though, I did want to touch on this for a brief moment, is pretty incredible. They're approaching $8 billion in cash and short-term investments. They're hoarding a lot of money right now. They have a lot of stuff going on. I'm interested in how they're going to spend this cash in the upcoming, in the future. Are they innovating? Are they releasing something big? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Anyways, thanks for watching. This was just a brief summary. I am going to be live streaming like I do for every quarter for Tesla. I'll probably be doing Snapchat as well on this channel. So if you want to hear those earnings reports, subscribe for that. Make sure to check out these videos. Follow me on Twitter at StockerFinance for more. Let's hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of summer. That would be amazing. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.